It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
.06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Tuesday, not a Monday. Jim and I were just talking about it. Hang on.
Today's show is sponsored by Do-It-Yourself Pet Taxidermy Kit. You'll never have to say goodbye to Mr. Sprinkles again.
And you can pose him any weird way you want.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Okay, so I start by giving a message from Jim. Not Monday, which I liked your thinking here, Jim. It's what made me think of the possible answer for this. Not Monday. Not Monday, Tuesday. It's Tuesday, not Monday. Okay. In which case, I tried to combine the two. And if it's Monday for some people, because it feels like it, but it's really Tuesday, can we just make that, combine the two and make it Tamale Day? It's like a Monday and a Tuesday combined, but we'll just make it tamale. There, so have tamales today and you're good. It's a Tuesday. It's going to be a really weird week for me. I'll explain why at another time, but it's good. It's going to be even a shorter week for me than you might think. All right, so before I get into all of the news, and not a lot happened during the weekend that you really have to concern yourself with, other than let's take a look at some of the fires out there. Gov't Pass is closed again. I had hoped that one was going to be done because they got snow up there. Remember that last week? They got snow up in Gov't Pass, and it was a pretty good amount, too. So I thought, okay, well, I mean, that's not going to totally put out the fires, but it really ought to help them. And it did help the firefighters get a handle on it, but, well, since then it's been drier and windier, and the snow melted off a long time ago. And so Gov't Pass on the way to the Grand Tetons, between Du Bois and the Grand Tetons, totally smoked in. I was in Riverton a while ago, and it was smoky there, really bad, because of all the smoke coming down through Du Bois. Imagine what Du Bois is like right now. Yeah, it can be pretty smoky up there. And so they have some of the worst of it right now because it's all sort of concentrated in that area, and that smoke is keeping the pass closed. I'll keep you up to date on that. Some of the other fires, there was a story that came out of northern Campbell County about a fire that had caused people to evacuate. Well, and this again, northern Campbell County, and they were able to go back home, or the latest I have is that they should be able to go back home. But yet, northern Campbell County had a fire over the weekend that ran people, just ranchers mostly, because that's mostly what's up there, ran people out. Some of the other fires, the house draw incident, which is the big one that we mostly talk about between KC and Douglas, they still have that at 94% contained. And the fire is still at 174,547 acres burned, 94% contained. Most of the luck that they had over the weekend, for the most part, yeah, it was calm winds in a lot of that area, which helped them out. Remington fire, 86% contained. That's between Wyoming and Montana, right on the border there. But 86% contained, that's pretty good. 2 fires near Gillette burned, mostly contained. Flat Rock incident, 78% contained near Gillette. And the Constitution incident, 95% contained. So they've made a lot of progress over time here. So I put all of those stories together for you with the latest information on them. And then, if you want to continue reading down, I've sort of reposted what we have on how to find the fire information that I find every single day when I give you these reports, because there's a whole list of places that I go through every single day just to see what not just the fires are doing, but the winds, the weather, things like that. And if you want to go ahead and look things up for yourself during the course of the day, I've given you information on how I do that. Now, along with all of this, here's some good news for your weather forecast. Now, today, a little bit on the warm side. You know, it's at the time of year, about 90 degrees or so, depending on where you are. But then there's a slight chance of rain today. Tomorrow, temperatures drop down quite a bit. We've got a couple of days in the 60s and 70s. That's Canada testing their weather machine again. That stuff moves in on Wednesday, that cold air, overnight, with a 60% chance of rain for a good part of the state, which means a lot of the areas that are burning right now could get some much-needed rain, and probably not in the form of thunderstorms, but Don Day's extended forecast comes in to us at 6:45, and at 7:45 I talked to him about it, and I'll make sure to question him about that as we get to 7:45, so we know what the latest is, because, yeah, that is a huge deal if we can get some rain into the area overnight tomorrow into tomorrow afternoon, whenever that's actually going to hit the area. So Don Day, 7:45 is when he's on live about that. And again, the information that I just told you about with the fires comes with a handy guide on how you can follow all of that stuff yourself, including smoke in the area. How much smoke we're going to get out of this, and which direction is the wind going to be blowing, all of that. Many of the links that I use every single day. So, okay, if I get more information, I'll let you know. There's a lot to follow. And, oh, by the way, if you go over to Idaho, if you're wondering where a lot of that smoke has come from, because it was a part of the long weekend where, wow, it got really smoky in parts of Wyoming for a while. And most of that, Idaho has a lot of fires going on right now. I mean, a lot. And over in Washington State, too. And so that's where most of that is coming from. So as a report for those of us here in Wyoming, Montana, the Dakotas, Nebraska, as I talk about those fires, yeah, it's really Idaho more than anybody else that's in the thick of this. So if I get more information on the smoke coming and their fire conditions, I'll let you know. But good news is, as we're changing seasons here, that usually brings in some wet weather that ought to help the firefighters out. And we'll keep you up to date.
In the state of Wyoming, there are highways that need your attention. You can adopt a highway.
Morty and I, we couldn't have a highway of our very own, so we adopted one.
Just make sure Wyoming highways stay clean and well maintained. Adopt a highway today, like this couple did.
He's a lovely little 2-lane road. We hope he grows up someday to become an interstate.
Like a strong morning.
For the future,
Tasteless, but it'll get you through the day. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Wood.
Research to help you take control of the situation with your family and manage the disease together. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
.22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Before I tell you the real first story I have here, the real first story, I got to ask a question of Greg and Cheyenne. So I was trying to figure out with Jim, who's up in Casper, since today's Tuesday, not Monday. Okay, keep that in mind. Today's Tuesday, not Monday, but it feels like a Monday. So can we call it, combine the two words and make it Tamale Day? People are going to be confused today because of the day off. Greg in Cheyenne says, Tuesdays are always Monday for me. My work week is Tuesday through Saturday. Okay, here's my question for you, Greg. Then what happens when we have a Monday holiday? Monday was Labor Day. Do you just not get that extra? Everybody else got an extra day off. but not you, because those Monday holidays you skip. If that's the case, Greg, sucks to be you. I'd have a conversation with your boss about that. I'd tell him I should be able to take Tuesday off. Everybody got Monday off. All right, so when I came back, there are times that I tune out of the news just because, like anybody else out there, it just goes on and on and on. It's so much garbage, and, it can grate on anybody. And so unless a big story pops, I really don't pay much attention to the news on some days, some weekends, even some longer holidays, just so I can recharge like everybody else. So I come back here today, and I want to know, so what's happening in the world? Some things have happened. Some. As far as politics are concerned, the two major candidates running for president really didn't do anything but make little tit-for-tat snipes at each other, and nothing was really said. So you don't worry about it. But I did come across this. In Phoenix, two professors discussed dismantling capitalism. Now, these are people who think that they're smart because they got a degree or two, and so they have all the answers for us. But being professors like this, they've never lived in the real world. They want to dismantle capitalism and elect a female president, so you see where they're going with that, to restore reproductive rights, which they still have, and warned of a dystopian future, here it comes, with cannibalism and forced breeding camps. Okay, so this is what they're trying to sell. We got to get rid of capitalism, which built this country and pulled more people out of poverty worldwide than any other thing human beings have ever done. Elect a female president for one reason, and then, okay, here it comes, cannibalism and forced breeding camps. They think it's going to be Nazi Germany all over again or something like that. All right, this is Arizona State University where this happened. Now, if I were there, I would have shown up with a nice bag of popcorn and a soft drink and sat there and laughed like I was watching a comedy show, but okay. Let's see. Jerry Irishhat's A Speculative Future for Reproductive Rights was held both in person and via Zoom. It featured an Irish poet and some other people who showed up to speak. The professor opened up a 1-hour-long moderated discussion by stating she got into this space because the United States hates women and everything the female body does. Now, trust me when I tell you, as a guy, as an American male, I do not hate everything the female body does. I can tell you that right now, but that's a whole nother discussion. All right, so she said she is convinced about the state of maternal health care in the country, citing the existence of maternity care deserts, as she talked about. Economic interests often override health concerns, she says, and the lack of financial incentives into breastfeeding and maternal child health. When asked about her concerns for the future, she said she fears the possibility of forced breeding camps and cannibalism driven by a lack of resources. Well, here's the thing. If she wants to get rid of capitalism, if she were to embrace capitalism, there wouldn't be any shortages of food. It would be affordable, reliable, and in overabundance. Because at the peak of capitalism, you walk into any grocery store, and there's grocery stores all over the place, and it's overflowing with food. In fact, when she talks about starvation and forced cannibalism, she's talking about a country, America, where everybody's gotten way too fat. So I wonder, how the hell does she get this? I really wonder. She also talked about transgenderism, and let's see, scholars also took questions from students in the audience and other people over Zoom, things like that. Okay. So you got to wonder, I wonder, when I read what some people like this have to say, what they honestly believe. They have every right to get up and say what they want to say. That's fine with me. But then I have questions about how they actually live and what their perceived experiences are that they believe this way. What got their minds into this state? Because it's certainly not reality-based. Again, if you take a look at what capitalism has done for the world and how many people it's pulled out of poverty, where does she get forced cannibalism from? Or for that matter, cannibalism, but forced birthing camps. Where does she get forced birthing camps from? Yeah, not quite sure how she saw that coming into being. But, okay, these are her beliefs. This is a college professor in charge of teaching young, as Limbaugh used to say, skulls full of mush that arrive at university campi. So before you go ahead and hook your kid up with a university, check to see if there's people like this teaching her. More Rianne says, wow, hates women, huh? Why doesn't she go to the Middle East then? Come back and see how that worked for her. And you're not wrong, Rianne. That's exactly right. Coming up on local news, update on your weather forecast. You and I get back into it again. 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Wake up, Wyoming.
This show contains sarcasm that some listeners may find disturbing. A sense of humor is advised. Chat with Glenn live on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
6:36 the time, Wake Up Wyoming. So I got to answer Red here in Casper because that's kind of a good point. If you're just joining me, what I was talking about was at down in Arizona, university there. There was it's a small meeting anyway, but a couple of college professors start talking in really extremist terms about what they think is coming. They want to cancel capitalism, but then they worry, we'll have cannibalism because people are going to starve. Well, people will starve if you cancel capitalism. I'll remind you there's only one fat man in North Korea. What is happening in Venezuela when they canceled capitalism? All right, but then there's the idea of forced birthing camps. And what she means by this is this one professor, when it comes to abortion in America, she's convinced Trump wants to have a federal law to ban all abortions, which is not possible. I'll explain in a minute. And then that way, when a woman does get pregnant, she has to have the baby. We'll have forced birthing camps. That's her whole idea, which is not possible. So Red and Casper is texting me, doesn't seem a bit naive to believe the president will be able to just overturn a Supreme Court decision. I think they would be better served focusing on changing their state laws. So Red gets what's going on. But now, this is also the Harris campaign that's been saying, the Democrats have been saying, Trump wants to make a federal law banning abortion, which he never has. He's never done that. All right. The idea, though, and let's go back and review this a little bit. When Roe v. Wade was decided by the court, even the justices at the time said this isn't going to stand because they knew they really were not allowed to do that for a multitude of reasons. But one of the reasons is it's not among the enumerated powers of the federal government. So that has to be something left up to the states to do. This is the way we're set up as a republic. We are 50 separate countries in a giant cooperative. So the federal government's in charge of very few things. So when it comes to something like an abortion, that's up to your state to decide. Now, some states will want a total ban on abortion. Some states will have whatever. I mean, you can do whatever you want. Most states will be somewhere in the middle, depending on, different variabilities. But that's the way it was set up by our country. The founding fathers weren't specifically thinking about abortion in this, but that's the idea that when issues come up, even issues that the founders never thought of, there's a way that we handle it. And in this case, it would be a states' rights issue. So the states get to figure out what to do. So after the Supreme Court decision on Roe v. Wade, which, by the way, did not ban abortion, okay, it just turns it back to the states to figure out. After the Supreme Court decision came around, the idea of writing a law that would go through Congress and be signed by the president to be a federal ban on abortion, it should be pretty obvious that's not possible. You can't do that, as the Supreme Court has ruled. Nor would it go through Congress anyway. It wouldn't make it through Congress. And the president cannot sign an executive order demanding that abortion now be illegal in all 50 states. That's not possible either. Finally, Trump never said that that's what he wants to do. So where this college professor in Arizona gets the idea that, well, they would have forced birthing camp. Can you imagine living in the household with this nutball? I mean, honestly, where did she get this from? Can you imagine living in a house with her every single day? She spouts these ideas, and where does she get these ideas from? Then the fact that she's a college professor at a university, and she was speaking with a couple of other college professors too, which is why I say, before you send your kids off to college, take a look at the university and see if this kind of stuff is going on. If it is, don't send your kid there. You know, let's go over to the East Coast. New York City, for example, New York University is open again. It's time for college kids to go back. And already college kids are showing up and saying all sorts of anti-Semitic things. And the worry is that those protests that we got rid of might come back. We'll see what happens. All of that pro-Palestinian anti-Semitic behavior, they didn't show up to school with that. They got that from school. They got that from their professors. So did you send your kid there to get a decent education that will help them start a great career and be successful in life? Or did you send them there to become indoctrinated in whatever? Yeah, answer that for yourself. Before you send your kid off to any college, take a look at exactly what they do at the college, what they have a history of, a record of. Not that nice pamphlet about how wonderful the college is, but take a look at what the college professors say and do, because that's what they're going to be hearing in the classroom, that kind of indoctrination, at a time when young people are, I think, at their most vulnerable. I mean, you can obviously see. You want to influence people at a certain time of life, that's about the time to do it. 642, Don Day's forecast coming up.
In the state of Wyoming, there are highways that need your attention. You can adopt a highway.
A highway just merged with a beautiful little 2-lane scenic bypass. And now they have an off-ramp of their very own.
Yes, make sure Wyoming highways stay clean and well-maintained. Adopt a highway today.
If it matters in Wyoming, it matters to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Call Glenn at 888-97-WOODS and make your voice heard. AM 1030, K2 Radio.
6:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to Frank Gambino, who's out there in the icebox. Frank, remember now, it's Tuesday.
It is Tuesday.
Okay. And
so either we had 2 Sundays or
yes,
2 Mondays.
I do. Well, yes, and that's it. And I did have a conversation here with Jim, who's in Casper. So since some people think it's Monday, but it's a Tuesday, I'm going to combine the two words together, and we'll just make it Tamale Day.
Yeah, that's a good way.
So we can go have tamales later.
Yeah, and then Friday we can have burritos.
Hey, you know, I'm good with that. I'll bring some to work. Okay. Now, just a thing I like doing. I've been doing this since I was a kid, myth busting.
Oh, myth busting. Oh,
so I got some good ones for you today.
I'm ready.
Okay. Bears hibernate because it's cold?
No, because they're tired.
No. Bears hibernate because in the wintertime, food that they would feast on is rather scarce.
Right, so might as well just sleep.
Yeah, just go ahead and get all stuffed while the food is abundant, and then go ahead and get some sleep. Okay, what color is a polar bear?
White.
Nope. Its fur is actually clear. It's transparent.
So why does it look white?
It appears white because of, everything around it reflecting off of it. But if you were to hold up the fur, it's actually kind of transparent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
I like that one.
Let's see. This one. I am not going to experiment with this. Piranhas can devour a human body in a matter of seconds, you're told. Mm-hmm. But actually, they're a very timid and cautious fish. No cause of human death from piranha attacks have ever been recorded. So while humans may have been bitten by a couple of piranhas, nobody's ever died from it.
So they have not been devoured by a fish?
Not
by
like
that
you see in
fish.
Hollywood movies.
Okay.
And I always thought when growing up that between piranhas and quicksand, that I would die one of those two ways.
Yeah, when all the piranhas and then it's all the splashing in the water.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Tough. Sorry, doesn't happen that way. You'll get a couple of bites. It'll suck, but you'll be fine.
Okay. All right. In college football, what a drag of a performance for the Wyoming Cowboys on Saturday night. They were drilled by Arizona State and Tempe, 48-7. Folks didn't look very prepared, and the coaching staff can take blame for that one. There are way too many penalties in the first half, and you can point to the players and the coaches for that one too. Quarterback Evan Swoboda had a terrible game, going 6 of 15 for 42 yards. On the second play from scrimmage, he threw an interception on the screen pass that was returned for a touchdown, and it was telegraphed the whole way. And that was the first of 2 picks thrown by Swoboda, and the second one was just airmailed over the middle of the field right in the arms of an ASU defender. Cowboy offense as a whole was just plain awful. 118 yards total, albeit with 2 starters out of the lineup, running back Harrison Whaley and tight end John Michael Gillenborg. Cowboy defense was thoroughly outplayed. They surrendered 499 yards of offense to the Sun Devils. The good news is that the Cowboys will play better this week against Idaho and Laramie, because you cannot play any worse. Game time on Saturday in Laramie Bay, 1:30. High school football season began on Friday night in 4A. Natrona held off Thunder Basin 17-7. Cheyenne East zoomed by Laramie 37-6. Cheyenne Central lost on the road to Rock Springs 23-16. Kelly Walsh lost to Campbell County on the road 34-0. Defending 4A champions Sheridan won their 32nd consecutive game. They embarrassed Cheyenne South 79-0. South has now lost 39 straight games, which is a Wyoming record in that dubious category. High school volleyball, Cheyenne hosted the big 2-day tournament over the weekend. Defending 4A champion Laramie went 5-0. They look really good and have 2 Division I commits in Tessa Dodd to Oregon and Michonne Sailors to Fresno State. Casper Kelly Walsh had a good collection of big hitters this season, and they finished the tournament 4-1. High school cross country, Cheyenne played host to that big Wyoming Invitational at Little America at the golf course on Friday. Maggie Matson of Cheyenne East won the girls race, and Trajan Swalstead of Worland the boys winner. The state cross country meet will be at Little America coming up on October the 26th. And that's it in sports.
So, okay, why did they do so bad?
Oh, I don't know. It could be on and on and on. It was just brutal to watch.
Now,
absolutely brutal to watch.
What happens after this is we start getting those commentators out there who think that's it. They're just done for the season.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, one loss is not going to kill Wyoming's season. Yes. And I think they made the comment on TV was fairly accurate. I think Arizona State probably isn't as good as they looked.
Yes.
And Wyoming isn't as bad as they looked.
Okay.
Over the long haul. However, boy, you come up with a performance like that, it just takes the wind out of the sails of the fans and everything. Now they got to have their home opener, and everybody's like, what happened here?
Okay, home opener, so they've got a lot of work to do.
I wouldn't want to be in that coach's room yesterday. I'll tell you that.
No. All right, thank you, Frank. I'm disappointed here. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. I got some news out of the University of Wyoming. Also, in case you haven't heard, Togety Pass is closed again. Togety Pass is closed because of that fire, which I was hoping the snow would have dealt with, but it didn't. It's Wake Up Wyoming. 7:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Wood. Thanks for joining me. It's a Tuesday, not a Monday, just so you know. But talking with Jim out of Casper, we decided to combine the 2 days. So this is Tamale Day. Monday and Tuesday spelled tamale as far as we're concerned. So have some tamales.
Today's show is sponsored by Sweet and Spicy Toilet Paper. Because life is, well, you need...
don't even know.
I mean, life needs... Okay, no. I don't know why you would need this.
Don't. Unless it's a gag gift, then go right ahead. So, okay, real quick before I get into some of the news here, interesting conversation I just got into. I had to look a couple of things up here. So, I love myth busting. Now, this started when I was a very young age, and I found out by watching the evening news when they got to the weather forecast, and the weatherman is answering weather questions from listeners. And I find out that there is no such thing as heat lightning, which totally blew me away because I thought there was such a thing. And the meteorologist explained why. Right? Okay, so from then on to this day, I'm always looking for things. What do we think we know that turns out not to be true? So I found a whole list of myths, and I was explaining some to Frank last segment. And one of them has to do with piranhas. Now, in Hollywood movies, somebody falls out of the boat into the water, and they're devoured by a school of piranha within seconds. Fact of the matter is, there's no recording of that ever happening. Piranhas are skittish little fish. If you're in the water splashing around, they're leaving. They don't want to be around you. They're scared. So maybe splashing around is about the best thing you can do when it comes to piranha. Not for sharks, but for piranha. So I went looking up because what I was reading said there's never been a recorded case of anyone actually being killed by piranha. Here's what they mean by that. There was a case, for example, where a canoe tipped over. There was a family there, and their youngest fell into the water, and they didn't find the youngest till later. And the youngest had been eaten on by piranha. However, it looked like the cause of death was drowning. So while there have been occasional cases where someone has been bitten, they don't know of anyone who's ever been devoured like you see in the Hollywood movies. There's no actual recording of that. So if it's ever happened, we don't know about it to this day. That's a Hollywood myth. They sensationalize it to make you think, wow, well, you fall into a lake full of piranha, you're just done. Probably not. You're probably just fine. If you do get nipped at, it might just be a bite or two. Again, every time they found a body, a human body, eaten by piranha, they found out later, well, the guy was already dead. Floating in the water, that's when the piranha went out. I had no idea. All right. Quick update for everybody. Tokenie Pass in Wyoming is closed. Again, I really hope that the snow we had last week would help those firefighters, and it did for a time. But it's really burning and smoky up there. That's a wooded area, very hard to get to, so they're having trouble fighting that one. There was a fire in northern Campbell County that got out of control and caused some evacuations. It looks like those people will probably be able to go home. Some of the other bigger fires in Wyoming are contained up to the 90-some percentile, but they're still burning out there. Tomorrow, and I do have dawn day on at 7:45, pretty good chance of rain tomorrow. That would help a lot, and temperatures dropping quite a bit for a couple of days. So, okay. Keep you posted on all of that, and the stories are on the Wake Up Wyoming website. All right, now, story I had geared up for you, queued up for you from, got to be careful because this is Wyoming public media. And in general, public media is biased, as you know. But here's the headline. UW, University of Wyoming, to receive millions in federal funds, which, by the way, the federal government doesn't have, but they'll get it anyway, for carbon capture research. This is something I've been saying for a long time. Can we just get out of this? And if somebody turns and says, well, it's not Wyoming money, it's still our money being borrowed against. And you know what I think about the national debt. This is really going to come hurt us. And probably pretty soon if this keeps up. But all right. And also, we don't need the carbon capture. I've explained why many times over. If anything, we should be releasing more of it into the atmosphere. But okay. University of Wyoming will receive about $5 million from the U.S. Department of Energy to continue studying carbon capture and storage, developing an industry that hopes to reduce carbon emissions from coal plants or possibly even remove harmful gases from the atmosphere. Now, here we go. They're right there in that story. Remove the harmful gas. It is not a harmful gas. Without CO2, this is a dead planet. This is not a harmful gas or a pollutant. Okay, so Sarah Leong, DEO, of carbon storage program managers said the project looks at what to do with carbon emissions that have been captured. Now, I do know this. We can use CO2 for a lot of different things, like getting that more oil. It can be used for that. And there's a lot of things we use CO2 for. I remember when I was a kid, I had a pellet gun that worked on CO2 cartridges. You can use it for all sorts of things. You can make a lot of stuff out of it. It's good stuff. But all right, we can utilize depleted oil and gas reserves that can now neutralize as a resource for carbon storage to capture and safely store emissions that are from existing CO2 sources. She added that parts of Wyoming have the right kind of geology to do so. There are really two prolific basins in Wyoming, and it talks about where to go ahead and put it. And here's the problem. Carbon capture and storage has never really worked anywhere they've tried it. It has been, so far, a failed industry. It's been tried many times to capture CO2 and put it somewhere underground. Like, there's a big cavern underground. We're going to put the CO2 in there, and we're going to cap it, and by gosh, it's going to stay down there. And it doesn't. So far, carbon capture has been a failed thing. But again, we don't even need to do it as an industry. Going back to, if anything, we should be pumping more of it into the atmosphere, not less. Now, back to where the UW is getting the money for this. This is money coming from the federal government that is already so in debt it's having trouble. We are borrowing money to keep up with the interest payments on the debt. Think about that. We are borrowing money to pay the interest on the debt. And at some point, we're going to have borrowed, and it's coming real soon, we would have borrowed so much that we won't be able to keep up with the interest on the debt. So we're doing stuff like this useless carbon capture stuff. If anything, we should just get up. Add that to the list of reasons why your utility bills keep going up, too. I mean, think about that for a bit. Your utility bills just keep on climbing. And a lot of it has to do, yes, it has to do with wind and solar. That's part of it. There's a lot of reasons. But one of the other reasons is getting involved in stuff like this. Well, you got to capture that CO2. One of the best ideas that I heard, a friend of mine up in Gillette, we laughed when he first suggested it, and then we thought about it and quit laughing and went, that's actually a great idea. Since when you take, and I've told you about this before, let's say you built a greenhouse in your backyard, right? And you decided to grow fruits and vegetables in there, and you wanted to make them as thick and lush as possible. The best output you can get, big, thick, lush, green plants for fruits and vegetables. Okay. You can go buy a CO2 emitter to create and pump extra CO2 into your greenhouse, which is like airborne fertilizers. The plants love it. That's part of why the Earth has been getting greener over several decades now, according to our satellites up there looking at the Earth, is because of all the CO2 that's being pumped into the atmosphere. So why not? Let's go to some of Wyoming's coal and natural gas power plants. What if we built a bunch of greenhouses around the power plants and just let some farmers have at it and pumped that CO2, pumped those emissions into the greenhouses? First off, coming out of there is in the middle of winter, it's really warm, humid air because most of what's coming out of those stacks is steam. So the plants will love the warmth and the humidity. And it's chock full of CO2. And they'll love that too. So we have all these greenhouses up there just cranking out all sorts of food. We laughed when he first said that. Then we thought about that when, actually, it's not a bad idea.
In the state of Wyoming, there are highways that need your attention. You can adopt a highway.
Morty and I, we adopted our highway before it took a wrong turn in life. We're trying to keep him on the straight and narrow. It was just a little dirt road. Now look at him. He's got beautiful blacktop, and he's doing 75 miles an hour.
Yes, make sure Wyoming highways stay clean and well maintained. Adopt a highway today.
Got something to say? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat with Glenn on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app from K2 Radio.
7:22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Hang on while I read something here. No, it already disappeared. Okay. Something popped up on the TV screen next to me, and I wanted to read it. I'll find out what it is and get back to you because it's actually pretty entertaining. But I just missed it. All right. And let's go to New York real quick. Illegal immigrants now make up 75% of all arrests in Manhattan. And I wonder, when they arrest them, what are they doing with them? Let them go? All right, here's the story. A 31-year-old migrant from Ecuador has been arrested in New York City 5 times since arriving in the U.S. earlier this year. He's been arrested 5 times. Why do they keep letting him out? His latest bust was for stealing a pair of pants and a beer. As why he committed the crime, he said, "I wanted to change my clothes and think." Hang on. Let's go back again here on that one, because you heard that right. I just want to make sure you heard it. He was arrested 5 times. The last time was for stealing a pair of pants and a beer. When asked why, he said, "I wanted to change my clothes and think." So, I wanted to sit down and think about my life and what to do because this is not a normal world, he said. No, it's not. It's all right. So he says crime rates in New York City aren't currently quite as bad as some people have projected, but that's the good news. NYPD has been out on the streets hustling, and there are some arrests being made. One complicating factor that nobody in the municipal government seems to want to talk about is the fact that the vast overrepresented amount of criminals showing up in Manhattan courts each week are illegal immigrants, while a vast number of them have been arriving in Gotham. See, where's Batman when you need him? Maybe even can't keep up. They're still made up considerably less than 10% of the total city's population. Yet, according to sources inside the NYPD, about 75% of those being arrested for assault, robbery, domestic violence, are illegal immigrants. But New York's Sanctuary City Clause makes it nearly impossible for an accurate total of the report. The New York Post introduced several different people in their story, like the one I just explained. The problem is far from, the story says, being exclusive to Manhattan. Another NYPD source in Queens said that illegal immigrants account for their 60% of arrests, but we're still relying on ballpark estimates because of their sanctuary city laws. The police are also unable to cooperate with ICE to determine if illegal immigrants have been arrested or detained, or doing so. Is there anything you can do to deport them? If we keep arresting these people over and over again, can we deport them? The problem caused, the story says, by these restrictions are both obvious and daunting. How are officials supposed to deal with the issue when they can't even place a reasonable estimate on the number of offenders arrested? One veteran ex-prosecutor at the Queens District Attorney Office described the Sanctuary City law as pathetic, disgusting, and crazy. See, this goes back to what I said originally with all of this. And you can go ahead and virtue signal Denver and say that this is a sanctuary city or a sanctuary state even. That sounds great when you say that and you pass all these laws. Now do it. And this is what happens when you try to do it. Morning, Bert. Bert's in Cheyenne. Yeah, welcome to Tamale, carbon capture. I thought that the Earth was supposed to be a dead planet due to acid rain. We're working on it. But that acid rain thing, that was a whole other story that was overhyped too. A problem, yes, but way overhyped. All right, so interviews with illegal immigrants at local shelters reveal that these illegals are well aware of the lax bail laws in New York City. They know that they can steal or vandalize and anything they want to do pretty much, as long as they don't actually just murder or seriously injure anyone. They can just go ahead and do what they need to do or want to do. This brings back the example set by, well, the story I told you just a moment ago. He wanted a change of clothes and a beer. It's hot out. He needs to go ahead and clean himself up a little bit, and that beer is going to feel really good. And so he might get arrested for this, but he's out within an hour or so, and then what? Now, not all of the crimes are of minor nature. The Venezuelan prison gang has set up shop in New York, as they have in many other cities, again, Denver. They are suspected of several recent crimes, including shooting of 2 cops who were trying to arrest one of the gang members, and yet the New York PD is still not allowed to ask them their residency status or check with ICE to see if they have any other crimes against them, anything they've been arrested for. So it's completely crazy at this point. Both the cops and the workers at the court system are frustrated beyond, you can imagine, beyond all reason. Because what's the point of arresting someone if you're just going to turn them loose and then you arrest them again and you turn them loose again? So getting arrested and having to go to the police station, get the picture taken, and then being released means what to the criminal? Nothing. It's just, I guess, part of the price they have to pay for doing something illegal. Welcome to New York. This is what's happening in New York City. Welcome to a sanctuary city. This is what it's like to live in a sanctuary city, Denver. Or for that matter, a sanctuary state, Colorado. And I know not every community in Colorado is playing the sanctuary city game or the sanctuary state game, but this is what happens when you do. So, you're not allowed to question these people to find out if they're in the country illegally or contact ICE to have them deported, and the list goes on and on. Back on the street within an hour. Coming up on some local business that we have to take care of, that's going to be news time. After news time, update on the weather forecast, and then you and I get back into it again. Don Day's on at 7:45. His weather forecast, a bit on the warmer side again today, like 90 degrees or in that ballpark. But then we get into Wednesday and Thursday. Remember, today's Tuesday. Could even have some rain in that forecast, which would be great maybe to help put out some of those forest fires. We'll find out. At 7:45 with Don Day. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Now, Glenn Woods fits in your pocket with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
7:36 the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Got Don Day coming on in just a couple of minutes because that weather forecast is important. It changes a lot, but it could even bring in some rain as it does so, which is important because in case you haven't heard, fires mostly contain Togety Pass is closed again. In fact, while I'm telling you this, I'll go ahead and look it up to see, has anything changed? Because I started talking about that at 6 o'clock this morning. Has anything changed since then? I'm looking at YDOT right now. Still closed. Okay. Let you know if anything changes on it. Just a lot of smoke in the area. All right, let's go up to the International Space Station. Okay, Boeing. Boeing, for the longest time when you talked about flying, and then space, it was Boeing. They were the standard that everybody else that was in the aerospace industry wished they were Boeing. Not right now. Trying to keep up with SpaceX, Boeing sent a capsule up to the International Space Station. Now they're stuck up there. Probably until the beginning of next year. Then the latest, they were wondering, what's that mysterious sound from inside the capsule? Yeah, so imagine you're stuck on the International Space Station, and from the capsule, which got you stuck there, you hear this weird noise. An astronaut reported strange pulsing noises emanating from a speaker inside the Boeing Starliner spacecraft, which had been docked at the International Space Station. So the reports are Boeing's Starliner spacecraft, currently docked at the International Space Station, started emitting that peculiar noise that left NASA astronauts puzzled. And again, I think a bit creepy. Well, after some testing here in Houston, They reported the unusual sound coming from a speaker inside. Wonder if I can get... Okay, I think I'm looking at something here that might be actual audio.
Houston on 2, got a question about the Starliner.
Houston's with you, Butch. Go ahead.
There's a strange noise coming through the speaker, and I didn't know if you could connect into the Starliner and let me keep mic and let you hear it. I don't know what's making it, but I don't know if it's something that maybe is connected between here and there, making that happen. But anyway, can you do that?
We can configure that, Butch. Give us a minute, and I'll call you back when it's ready.
Okay.
Station Houston on 2, we're configured for audio via hardline and CST, if you want to give us a call.
Okay, I'm in Starliner, and how do you read?
5x5, how many?
Okay, I'm gonna keep the mic up next to the speaker.
Copy.
Hear that?
At negative, Butch, we did not hear anything.
Oh, that is creepy.
All right, Butch, that one came through. It was kind of like a pulsing noise, almost like a sonar ping.
Yeah, I'll do it one more time, and I'll let y'all scratch your heads and see if you can figure out what's going on. Here we go.
Isn't that really creepy? Imagine if you were on board this space station, you heard this.
All right, over to you. Call us if you figure it out.
Yep, good recording. Thanks, Butch. We will pass it on to the team and let you know what we find.
Okay, so what do you think that is then, huh? Starliner spacecraft maintains communication, of course, via radio frequency system during flight and through a hardline umbilical cord that carries audio once it's docked. While the odd noises in space, it's not uncommon to have weird noises in space that we humans just don't recognize because there's weird things happening out in space. Not aliens, unfortunately, but Boeing and NASA, the story says, have faced numerous challenges trying to get the crew back. And since it's coming out of a speaker, it's got to be some kind of an audio problem with the speaker they've got to figure out. This says, while the strange noise most likely, they don't know what the sound is. It didn't get anyone frazzled. They're just looking at the audio speaker and going, well, what's that picking up? And it could be picking up any sort of thing. I mean, just let your imagination run wild. I'm going to go with space aliens. I have no evidence whatsoever. I don't think that that's it, but that's possibly the best. You know what's going to happen? Those weird alien shows that are on, like, Discovery Channel, stuff like that, Ancient Aliens and other weird alien shows, they're going to pick this up and they're going to do something with it. Within the next few months, we're going to get all sorts of wild conspiracy theories. And within the next decade, you know how this is going to get out of control. So as far as I'm concerned, it's going to turn out to be something completely innocuous, not a big deal. So what? The guy that, what's the television show he does? He's got the weird, I don't even know if he combs his hair. Just a big tuft of black hair on the top of his head that's never combed. And there's always aliens. He's going to be all over this. And frankly, I'm looking forward to it. So I'm glad this happened. Thank you, Boeing.
Local and mobile across Wyoming and beyond with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
7:45 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day from Day Weather. So I see they closed Toketee Pass again, Don. Apparently that snow that did a good job up there didn't do a good enough job.
Well, it knocked it down some, but it wasn't the type of snowstorm to put it out completely, I'm afraid to say. But they do have some chances of getting some precipitation today and tomorrow.
Okay. That's good news, and I was wondering if we're going to get a little bit, maybe a little bit today and a little bit tomorrow, what kind of rain are we talking? Because what we do need is that nice, slow, soaking thing.
Well, I don't think we're going to have that, but I do think a lot of the states got a chance of measurable rain, which means, enough to, we call it a wetting rain, enough to make a difference. And the cooler temperatures and the higher humidity will certainly help. I think the best chances really across the state is tomorrow. Today, the showers and storms will be most prevalent in the west and the northwest part of the state, scattered elsewhere across the plains. But tomorrow and Thursday, it's going to feel like fall again. Temperatures are going to go backwards. and we've got these chances for showers across the region.
Now, I was hoping you would say that a lot of that rain is going to hit up in the Campbell County and Johnson County area.
Well, there's a chance. Am I guaranteeing rain over 100% of those counties? No. But there's a good chance tomorrow and tomorrow evening up there.
All right, now let's talk about this drop in temperature here, because there again, it's the winter machine that I still think is under a test, because temperatures do drop, but just for a couple of days.
A couple of days, and then this is just, I mean, if you were to write up a classic September, this is it. You have these cold fronts, you have an interruption of the summer heat. Feels a little like fall, then all of a sudden, hey, it feels like summer again. Yeah. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Temperatures cool off through Thursday, then they start to slowly go back up again for Friday and the weekend, and probably through the middle of next week, and then late next week, we cool off again. Okay. And so what happens is the cool fronts start to get more frequent, and they start to get stronger during the second half of the month. But in between the fronts, this is where you get what I call the Chamber of Commerce weather patterns, to where it's just delightful.
Oh, you see, now I'm looking forward to delightful. Is there any way we can schedule them for our weekends?
We're scheduling one for this weekend.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, see, now you're on the ball. Thank you. Appreciate that, Don. Don Day with day weather. All right. So, yeah, a little bit of rain coming in tonight, and a little bit more on tomorrow, and that's good news for those people that are hoping that we'll get at least a little something to soak those fires down. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino is waiting by. Okay, I got some more myths for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
And some of these are from Hollywood myths, like the piranha one that I gave you.
Yeah, they don't shoot people up.
No, they don't. No, in fact, the only time they've ever found that piranha have eaten a human being, they found out later the person was already dead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you're fine. All right. Myth. When you're watching a Hollywood movie and the actor pulls that grenade and pulls the pin out with his teeth.
Can you do that?
You'll lose a couple of teeth on the way, but go ahead.
Okay.
Not a good idea, according to your dentist.
Okay. Or the army.
All right. Sweat removes toxins from your body.
No, I don't know if it does that.
It just cools you down.
Yeah.
That's all it's meant for.
Although you can sweat out beer.
Now, this one, so in other words, if someone has had a lot of beer, an alcoholic can come up and lick you and get drunk.
Oh, you could, you could smell that.
Okay,
yeah.
I shouldn't have said that out loud because a bunch of alcoholics just found a cheap way to get drunk. All right, now here's the next one. And I know about this one, but okay, in the movies, some guy has a gun and he screws a silencer on there. And you could hear this little pop of air when he pulls the trigger. And the answer is hell no.
No.
It does make the gun quieter, but it's still not quiet.
Yeah, it's not a silent.
It goes from a bang to a bang.
Okay.
That's it. There's nothing silent about it. It just reduces.
Didn't they used to put, like, tennis balls on the end of that?
Oh, you can put all sorts of stuff on there to capture the sound. But again, all it does is just reduce the noise. It never makes there's no such thing as what you see in Hollywood movies.
Okay.
We can blame most of this on Hollywood, by the way.
Well, they embellish everything.
Of course they do. And a lot of people watch Hollywood movies thinking that's the way it is.
Yeah, it's
but
not
it
the way it
doesn't work
is.
that is. No. Okay. King cobra is the most venomous animal in the world? No. Box jellyfish?
Yeah.
Yeah. Stay the heck away from those.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Oh, this one broke my heart. It really did. Walt Disney first drew Mickey Mouse. No.
No, he did not.
He was drawn by the company's chief animator.
Yeah.
And Disney, was paying him, so, okay. Oh, here, now this one I always did enjoy. The first time I heard this, I went, really? Okay, Cleopatra was from what country?
She was not from Egypt.
It was true, she was Greek.
Mm-hmm.
See? Okay. Let me see. This one, and I'm glad this myth was busted because I've been hearing this all my life. When you sneeze, your heart skips a beat or even for a moment pauses. No.
No, when you sneeze, you don't see for about a half a second.
Yes. Your rhythm changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're not dying of a heart attack.
You're not at all. No. It's just your rhythm might change for a second. You'll be fine. And then there's a whole myth about saying God bless you. I'll get into that another time.
Okay. All right, in college football, what an awful performance turned in by the Wyoming Cowboys on Saturday night in Tempe. They were drilled by Arizona State 48-7. Cowboys didn't look very prepared, and the coaching staff can take the blame for that one. They had way too many penalties on offense in the first half, so you can point at the players and the coaches for that one. Quarterback Evan Swoboda had a terrible game. He was 6 of 15 for 42 yards on the second play from scrimmage. He threw an interception on a screen pass that was returned for a touchdown, and it was telegraphed the whole way. Boy, you just cannot make plays like that in Division I football. That was the first of 2 picks thrown by Swoboda in the first half, and the second one was just airmailed right into the arms of an ASU defender over the middle. Cowboy offense as a whole, they were awful, just 118 yards total, albeit with 2 starters out of the lineup, running back Harrison Whaley and tight end John Michael Gillenborg. Boy, they could have used them both on Saturday. Cowboy defense thoroughly outplayed. They were surrendered close to 500 yards of offense to the Sun Devils. The good news is the Cowboys will play better this week against Idaho and Laramie because they cannot play any worse. Game time on Saturday in Laramie will be 1:30 at War Memorial Stadium, the newly renovated War Memorial Stadium. High school football that began on Friday in 4A, and the Natrona held off Thunder Basin 17-7. Cheyenne East zoomed by Laramie 37-6. Cheyenne Central lost on the road to Rock Springs 23-16. Kelly Walsh lost to Campbell County on the road 34-zip. Defending 4A champion Sheridan won their 32nd game on the road. They embarrassed Cheyenne South 79-0. South has now lost 39 straight games. That is a Wyoming State record in that dubious category. High school volleyball, Cheyenne hosted a big 2-day tournament over the weekend. Defending 4A champion Laramie won all 5 of their matches. They look really good, and they have 2 Division I commits, and Tessa Dodd going to Oregon and Michonne Sailors going to Fresno State. Casper Kelly Walsh has a good collection of hitters this year, and they finished the tournament 4-1. High school cross country, Cheyenne played host to that big Wyoming Invitational at the Little America Golf Course. Maddie Matson of Cheyenne East won the girls' race. Trajan Swalstead of Worland the boys' winner. The state cross country meet will be at Little America this year, coming up on October the 26th. And that's it in sports.
And that was the laziest work weekend Frank ever had.
No.
You walked outside and watched the golf game and then turned around and went back to bed.
Well, no. The Thursday I was in Gillette for the golf tournament. Then I drove from Gillette to Cheyenne.
Right, yeah.
And then the next day I went to the cross country meet, which was right outside the hotel. Then I went over to Cheyenne East and Cheyenne Central High School for volleyball. And then I went back over to Cheyenne East for football. Then on Saturday, then I went over to Cheyenne South High School and Cheyenne Central High School for more volleyball. And then I went home. And then you saw me here on Sunday working on the computer.
No,
Sunday number 1.
Yes, that's
Sunday
right.
number 1. And then you saw me me on Sunday number 2.
Sunday number 2.
Working on my computer.
That's exactly right, yeah. When are you taking time off?
I'm going to start today, actually.
Okay.
Well, I'll be around, but I'll be in South Dakota for a few days.
Oh, you will.
But you'll hear from me every morning.
You will every morning. All right. Thank you, Frank. So I stand corrected. Frank did not stop all weekend. Yeah, and it was Saturday 1 and Saturday 2 and Sunday 1 and Sunday 2. That was what we had. We had 2 Saturdays and 2 Sundays this past weekend. Today's Monday, right? No, it's Tuesday. But we're combining the 2 days and just calling it Tamale Day, which is what you're having for lunch. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
I'd.
.06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Tuesday, not a Monday. Just to keep it in order for everybody. And since I'm combining Tuesday and Monday together to make it one day, I'm just calling it Tamale Day. So that's what you're having for lunch.
Today's show is sponsored by Sweet and Spicy Toilet Paper. Because life is, life needs...
No.
Okay. I don't know why you would need this.
It's a gag gift, which means I'm in favor of.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilet, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
It is open phone, so 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about, change the subject. Fine, I just kind of roll with the whole thing. So, okay, I want you to, if you would, listen to this lady explaining some economic troubles that not she's having, but she was trying to help her kid out. And the kid could either rent a house or get an apartment. A house didn't work out. And he wasn't looking at a big house. A small house. But that didn't work out. And so could he buy one? Could he rent one? What about, if that's not going to work out, what about just getting him an apartment? Now, this has to do with the cost of real estate today.
Well, I had an eye-opening experience with my son this weekend. So my son graduated from college 6 months ago. And when he graduated, he was going to move back in with us so that he could find a job here in this local area and save up enough money to move out on his own. Had no problem with that. So it's been about 6 months. He has saved almost every single dime. He works a 40-hour-a-week job, makes $40,000 a year, which back in my day was sustainable to be able to live. Apparently that's not the case anymore. You can't live on $40,000, which makes no sense to me. So we were looking online at Zillow, Google, to find apartments and houses within his budget, a house to rent because he has a dog. So we said, let's write them all down and let's go check them out because pictures don't tell you what's really going on, y'all. So we drove around to some of these, and I can't even tell you, some of them I didn't even feel comfortable driving down the street. They were in really, really shady parts of town, looked like a war zone. The whole house looked like it was off kilter. A lot of work to be, it just looked like it should be uninhabitable. Don't rent this. It should just be tore down, right? And then when we went to apartments, these apartments that were within his price range, and when I say price range, they were still going for $800 a month. These $800 a month apartments, I didn't feel comfortable with him living in these apartments. When I say those two look like they should have just been torn the hell down, they should have been. The only ones that are decent, he found a studio apartment that's in a nice neighborhood, $1,400 for 485 square feet. That is more than my mortgage, right? And then regular apartments, not even glamorous apartments, just one bedroom apartment that has normal square footage is anywhere from $1,300 to $1,700. We live in Montgomery, Alabama. We're not in a big metropolitan area. I don't understand how the housing market has gotten so donkey. Okay. And everybody says, well, then he should just buy a house since it's cheaper and mortgage is less than rent. Well, nobody will give him a mortgage loan because he has no credit. Not that he has bad credit. He has no credit. He didn't want to get into debt. So he doesn't have any credit to show for it. So it's like a lose-lose situation. I don't know how they're living back when.
Okay. So you're getting the idea here. Yeah. Okay. Well, and she's taken, I've seen this myself, even in Wyoming, and I'd love to know what your rent is wherever you might be living in Wyoming. Because even in Wyoming, there's places that are really, I would say, on the edge of, I don't know if I would want to rent that or if I wouldn't want to buy that. It doesn't have to be a house. It can be an apartment, too. And if it's something that I would consider to be affordable, I look at it and think, I don't know. Again, it's sketchy. So when I do find a place that's nice, it's kind of high end. Now, markets, if we were to get really into the whole free market thing once again, like we should be, then prices will adjust because if nobody can afford to rent it, then prices have to come down. The renters have to come down. Even when it comes to homes that are, or condos, homes or condos for sale. If people can't afford it, then prices have to come down. They have to. So I look at this as I would love to see a solution for this problem because I know it's not just one place. She's in Alabama. Alabama, by the way, is the only state that Arkansas is allowed to make fun of. And you got Arkansas riding you. You're kind of low in the food chain there. But still, being in that state, you would think things would be a lot cheaper. Now, in a state like that, if you're thinking, well, that's kind of a slummy, rednecky, actually you'd be very surprised how clean and modern the state is. However, it's not some big city. It's not like New York City, someplace like that. Prices should be a lot lower. So what are they where you are? Do you consider it to be reasonable? Because I do look at some places and I think you want how much for that? little thing, or for that sketchy-looking place, you want how much per month for that sketchy-looking place? If you did get into some place nice, you feel fortunate right about now. So I do think, being a free market kind of guy, and I base my free market ideas on what I've seen actually happen in the real world. If you want to solve this problem, you don't get government in to fix the problem. Remember that guy who ran for president? Was it president, or I think he was governor? It was some state. I think it was Georgia's, where I want to say. But anyway, his whole thing was the rent is too damn high. Remember that guy? The way to fix it, he wanted to fix it by having government take action to fix it. But you know what happens when government steps in with rent control or other price controls, including, Camilla Harris, at your grocery stores. We'll have price controls at the grocery stores, which will make shortages and things actually will go higher. There's a better way to solve this, and that's not with a government solution. So yeah, things housing market-wise, rent, mortgages, stuff like that, can be kind of high. That's Bidenomics for you, right? Yeah. Okay. And they don't need to be that high. And it's a bubble that can burst. It's not a permanent thing, providing we let the market, trust the market to do what it does. Because at some point, I mean, right now, a lot of people, if they want to rent, for example, or even own, they'll double up. They'll get roommates, which is fine. But at some point, if people can't afford to pay this much, then the prices do automatically come down, because renters need customers, sellers, real estate agents even need customers. And if the prices are just out of reach, then everything's going to have to come on down. Now, I know when the mom you heard there said, well, the kid's making $40,000 a year. When she was young, that was a living wage, easily. Well, yeah, things do inflate over the years. I remember my parents, when they were young and they bought their first car, I think they bought it for $3,000 or $4,000, and it was new. So, yeah, prices do change as long as wages keep up with prices. We're okay. But we did have an inflationary bubble here. Again, thank you, COVID and supply chain shortages and Bidenomics for all of that. So the trick is how to bring it down. You don't bring it down by passing laws and rules and regulations. That's how we got into this problem.
In the United States revealed that beer contains small traces of female hormones. To prove their theory, they fed 100 men 12 pints of beer and observed that 100% of them started talking nonsense and couldn't drive.
He's talking to himself in a padded room, and you could be the voice in his head. Join the conversation on Wake Up Wyoming, 866-97-WOODS.
It's Wake Up Wyoming. So if you're just joining me, I was playing audio of a mom who's really frustrated, and I understand she's really frustrated. Her kid just got out of college. He saved a little bit of money. He wants his first place. It doesn't matter if he wants to buy a house, rent a house, get an apartment, whatever it might be. Where can he afford? And he can't afford anything unless the place is just flat out a dump at today's prices. Michael is in Cheyenne about housing. Morning.
Hello?
Yes, sir. You're on the air.
Yeah, I'd like to say, when I was 19 years old, I got out of college. I went to California. I lived on the beach of Ventura, California for 6 months, living in my car.
Okay, yeah.
After living in my car for 6 months, I found some people. We all got together. We ended up renting a 2-bedroom condominium.
Right.
And 6 of us lived in it.
Okay.
3 of us sharing a bedroom, 3 of us sharing another bedroom and living in it. I did that for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was able then to gather enough money to where I could put a down payment on a house and move into a house. So sometimes it's not always a luxury to have a good life.
Sure.
Now I have a huge bee company in Wyoming and run pollination contracts, and I own a bar, and I've grown up to where I have a lot of status, and I've done a lot with my life.
But you had to start sleeping on the beach.
No one starts off with getting anything.
Now, would you say, though, that the young man in question here, who's in Alabama and making $40,000 a year, shouldn't you, I would think he'd be able to afford at least a decent little apartment?
It depends on what you consider decent.
I guess so, yeah.
My car was decent,
Yeah.
right? And it didn't cost me anything. And, there's 50 states. You're not inclined to live in one state, migrate.
Okay.
Move to a place that you can afford.
All right. You make some great points. All right. Thank you, Michael. I want to talk about what you just said. He makes some great points. So for me, just know where I'm at. When I started out, when I first got out on my own, and I went now I lived on Sanibel Island, as you know, when I was a kid. So I'm an island boy. And the mainland was 3 miles in, and then I had to go further than that to get to the radio station I was working at. And so what I ended up doing was talking to somebody who was there working at the station with me, who was also my age. We were both the same age, and we were both looking for an apartment. So we decided, let's just be roommates. Now, with the gentleman who just called here, he had several roommates, and some people do that. And I get when you're just starting out, it's a struggle. And so for the first few years of my life, I went through quite a long period of time where I kept a roommate or two just so I could afford it. But you're starting out. You're just getting started here. Now, here's Mike in Wheatland. He said, I'd love to know what this young man degrees in. If he only makes $40,000 a year, sounds like another kid with a useless 16th century women's study degree, and somehow it's everyone else's fault if he can't afford to live. Now, I still look at it. Maybe I'm wrong, Mike, maybe I'm wrong, but if he's in Alabama, depends on where in Alabama, and he's making $40 a year, at that age, he ought to be doing okay. And when I say a decent apartment, there was a time, and I did this to save money. Now, the woman in the audio that I played, she called it a studio apartment. I get picky with words. What she meant to say is an efficiency. So what an efficiency looks like is it's basically a hotel room, and they shoved in a little refrigerator and a little stove to cook on, and that's it. Other than that, it looks the size of a hotel room. That's an efficiency. A studio is usually in a big old building, and it's one open room, and there's not much to it. But it's an old building with a huge room, and that's a studio. A lot of people artists like to use them. And so I've had a studio apartment, and I love them. But I've lived in an efficiency just because I was young and trying to save money. And to have a room the size of a hotel room, that's for one person, that's affordable. But even then, I remember the first time I got an efficiency was the second time I had a roommate. So, yeah, we shared a little efficiency because we were young. We were in our early 20s. We were just starting out. I still have to go back to what she was saying. If he's making $40 a year, you would think he'd be able to do better than the dumps they were looking at. Now, the other side of that is I would like to ask the mom and the young man, her son, has he thought about roommates? Because there is a point with our friend from Cheyenne calling in. He does make a good point. When you're starting out, a lot of times it is a struggle to get your first place and to work your way up. So, yeah, that can be a struggle. I think there is a point to be made there. But I think I'm looking at many different sides to this. I do understand because I had to do it too, and many of you did. Just starting out, get out into the real world, and how do you start? How do you make it? You're not making much money. But this is where you learn. This is where you learn the struggle. And you get good at it. Then that way, when you do get into your 40s and 50s and so on, you're really doing well because you've figured it out. There's that time where you make your mistakes and you're working your way up. I think, though, the audio that I played, the mom was concerned more than anything else with the cost of housing, which is what made me think of, as I listened to that, what the cost of housing is, which is why I was asking for those people who are out there looking for a place. Just curious, what do you think about the cost of, even in Wyoming? Because I've heard, Wyoming real estate prices are not a whole lot better than a lot of other places. Although I'd hate to see what's going on in Colorado right now. But even for those people who are listening in Nebraska and South Dakota, between housing prices, buy or rent, or just apartment prices? What do you think about what you're getting for your money these days? Are they trying to charge too much? Is it out of range, ridiculously out of range? Because I do remember just like we had the car bubble, and car prices are still too high, as far as I'm concerned. But I do remember we get into this whole housing bubble thing, too, and a lot of people can't afford to get into an apartment or a house at a lot of today's inflationary prices, which makes me go back to, if it is a if it is a bubble, then wait and the economy will correct for it, providing we don't look to the government to solve the problem. Because if you turn to your government and say, fix this problem, housing is unaffordable, they start doing what government does. They start forcing landlords and real estate agents and so on, and people trying to sell their homes, to sell at a certain rate. And as I've said many times, you cannot create an artificial economy. It wrecks everything. Let the economy do what it does. If prices are too high and people truly cannot afford to buy or rent, then those people who are trying to sell or rent will find themselves with no customers. And they'll have no choice but to bring the prices down. All right. Thanks for the call from Cheyenne, because that is a perspective I wasn't thinking about at the time. Maybe he's just a young man starting out, and he's just got to go find himself a roommate and do what a lot of young people do starting out. And if you want a nice place, go split the rent with somebody and work your way up. Maybe that'll do a lot better. Then you can afford a nice place at today's prices, which a lot of people had to do when they just started out first in their life at a very young age. They struggled and had multiple roommates at time until they were able to get up on their feet and get going. She complained that he didn't have any credit because he's just getting started. Yeah, but he also needs to gain job experience, because I guarantee you, if he does well, by the time he's in his 40s, he's making more than enough money to handle all of this if he does what he's supposed to do. 8:30 coming your way. Local news update on your weather forecast. You and I get back into it. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. 888-97 WOODS. Wake up, Wyoming.
Where Wyoming comes to talk. This is Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Be part of the show at 888-97 Woods.
8:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, I'm off to another topic, but you can go ahead and change back to that or anything else you want to talk about. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. 888-97 WOODS. A side note here, I'm watching the ridiculously large television they put in front of me. I watch what's called Fox Raw. And what they do is they just have cameras at various places all over the world. And they pop up different videos. They occasionally do an interview. But mostly they just have their cameras somewhere, and here's what we're watching. And there's a bunch of pro-Palestinian protesters in New York. College kids, of course. And most all of them are walking around wearing masks, trying to cover up their appearance. I guess they want to protest for something, but they're ashamed to show who they are. And cities have been banning masks. I think New York was one of them. I have to go back and check. But banning people wearing masks, because it's not a matter of you're trying to prevent COVID or whatever the heck, which didn't work anyway. But instead now they're trying to hide their faces from the cameras so they can do some things they're not supposed to do, and no one's going to know who they are. Or for that matter, be at a protest and then they have to show up for school or work and somebody saw them. So they want to protest, but they have to hide their faces? Then I don't trust you as a protester. But all right. So here's a new ism for you. And as soon as they throw in the word problematic, I know that there's a problem with their ism. The headline is, what is healthism? And why is it problematic? Healthism. You mean wanting to be healthy? Okay. Look, I try real hard. In fact, it's not very hard for me at all. I make sure that I don't eat a lot of junk. Yeah, I may have the occasional treat, but I don't eat junk. Right? I get some exercise. I take care of myself. Okay? It's important to do that. So what is healthism then? Well, here's the story. It reads, we all know prevalent diet and wellness culture are in our society. With that culture, appearance and health have become one and the same. Well, okay, so I don't see that as a problem. You want to look good, you want to feel good. People believe that by looking at an individual, they can tell their health status. Well, if somebody believes that, they're wrong, because you can look at people who look very healthy, but they got a problem. However, that's a false assumption. People in large bodies can have great health, which is not true, by the way. And those in straight-sized bodies can suffer a variety of health conditions. That is true. What I mean by large bodies is if you're really overweight, you have health issues. Now, a thin person can have health issues too, but a large person has health issues. You shouldn't be that large. Okay, so unfortunately, it says these false ideas manifested in a concern of trolling. When people's anti-fat bias is disguised as concern for their health. There are a myriad of problems, one of which is inherent healthism at play. This is why it's problematic. Healthism. At its core, healthism does not take into account social determinants for health. So here's how they explain it. Economic stability, education access and quality, healthcare access and quality, neighborhood and built environment, social and community context. These 5 dominants capture our health is not just from how often we go to the gym, but how safe and workable our neighborhood is. Okay. In which case I call garbage on all of this, because I know people who live in very bad situations and they're very healthy people. You can be healthy anywhere. All right, but reading on. The 5, let me see, they address how not having access to high-quality health care impacts our health even more than whether or not we eat a salad every day. We all hold certain privileges. Our lack thereof greatly impact our health status. Okay, so now, what, health is a privilege thing? Again, it doesn't have to be. I can introduce you to many people who don't make a lot of money, and yet they're very healthy. Live in bad neighborhoods, and yet they live healthy. So it says not only does healthism, I just love that term, healthism, lack consideration for systemic factors. They have to throw in systemic. That's a buzzword. Out of our control, but it makes health a moral obligation that everyone is expected to strive for. Well, I wouldn't even say it's just a moral obligation. I just look at taking care of yourself is a good idea. But all right. Being unhealthy becomes synonymous with being less worthy. Yet we all deserve respect. Well, I do think that, we all deserve some kind of respect. However, we all deserve autonomy to decide what we want to do with our bodies. And I agree with that too. But it is a better idea to be a healthy person. You don't have to be a health nut. You don't have to be ripped like some Olympic athlete. You don't have to be that good. But take care of yourself, for God's sakes. Healthism, as they're called. See, this is... In other words, when you look at someone who's obviously not taking care of themselves and you think, oh, Lord. Now, I wouldn't go pick on the person. That's just rude. But if you look at someone who's obviously not taking care of themselves and you go, oh, man, don't be that. That good. Use that as an example of what not to be. And I don't think it's a bad idea at all to, if you have a good friend or a family member who's not taking care of themselves, to encourage them to do so. I wouldn't call that healthism. I'm not a bigot for showing concern or trying to help them. The story says healthism has taken root in our society in many ways and spreads alongside diet culture. How often do people police fat bodies in the name of health? How about interchangeable use of healthy and good to describe food nowadays? What's wrong with saying healthy food? You get the idea. It's now, if you're someone, according to this, If you're someone who looks at somebody who's not taking care of themselves and you think, oh, that's bad, we should have a talk with this person and help them out. Again, don't shame. I agree with don't shame them. Don't be a jerk. Okay? Enough with the fat jokes already. Don't be a jerk. But if somebody's not taking care of themselves and they're a friend of yours or a family member, okay, if you want to look at someone who is not taking care of themselves and use as an example to motivate yourself to being healthier, that's a great thing. I think that's a good thing. You should do that. But now they're trying to make this health-ism. Okay. It is a good idea to make sure that you're eating right and taking care of your body. It is a good idea to encourage other people to do the same. That is not some form of bigotry because you worry about your health or the health of the people that you care about.
Why are you crying?
Because I don't want to be an adult.
You don't want to be an adult? I cry about that a lot too. Why don't you want to be an adult?
Because it's not fun. It's going to be not fun. It's like a prison being an adult.
It is like a prison being an adult.
Come on, B. I don't want to be an adult. I don't even want to be a teenager. I just want to be a kid.
Me too. Can I be a kid?
No.
Honestly, he's just happy to be here. Catch Glenn Woods on Wake Up Wyoming, weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
8:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming, off to the icebox. We go. Frank Gambino's waiting by, so I'm entertaining Frank with myths and reality.
And I'm entertained.
This is good stuff here. Using an alarm clock is the best way to wake up. Nope. Actually, waking up suddenly is bad for you.
Well, I've been doing that forever, so...
Yeah. Does your alarm clock still wake you up?
Well, yeah.
Okay. I wake up
without it, I would not be here on time.
I get up way before my alarm clock.
Oh, really?
I do. Yep. However, though, I do have, and I had this, it's a radio alarm clock a while back. The whole idea behind it waking someone up is it slowly turned up the volume.
Right.
So I would turn it on some like easy listening station.
Yeah.
And then and it would slowly in the background. Then eventually it get louder and louder until I wake up and going, the hell's that loud music? Well, that's my alarm clock waking me up. But these days, no, I'm up way before my alarm clock.
All right, if you want to turn the clock radio on, turn Metallica on, then you'll get up right away.
Oh, my God, you hit the ceiling with your claws now.
There you go.
Thomas Edison invented the electric light bulb.
I don't think he did.
No. He invented a method to keep bulbs constantly turned on. Somebody else had come up with the idea, but it was temporary. Okay? He came up with the idea of how to power it and keep it on for a long time.
Didn't Thomas Edison and the Ford, one of the Ford guys, they lived like in the same complex in Florida.
So, yes.
In Sarasota or something like that.
Fort Myers.
Fort Myers, yeah.
Sanibel Island is off the coast of Fort Myers. That's where I grew up. And if you go there into Fort Myers, you can visit the Edison Winter Home and on the Caloosahatchee River. And right next to it is the Ford, something, because they were friends.
Yeah.
Also, and this one I thought was really interesting, is when I walked around and toured the Edison home, which I did a couple of times in my life, what I thought was fascinating, the Edison home was a bunch of, you can only do this in places like Florida, was a bunch of little pods, rectangles, but up off the ground just a bit in case it flooded. And so there's the bedroom pod. Then you walk through the garden to the kitchen and dining room pod, guest room pod.
So they're all separated.
Yes, and with the gardens in between.
Oh, wow.
And then you head over to this big, long warehouse where he worked with all of his people on all these different inventions. So what he did was he had inventors working on things constantly, and he would jump from person to person helping them out.
I drove by there. I looked. It's crowded with people.
Next time you go there, it is worth the tour. It really is.
Tom Edison, baby.
Tom Edison, yeah. Him and Henry Ford were neighbors in their winter homes in Fort Myers, Florida.
All righty. College football. Wyoming Cowboys were just brutal on Saturday night in Tempe. They were drilled by Arizona State to start the season 48-7. For some odd reason, the Cowboys just didn't look very prepared. The coaching staff can take the blame for that one. They had way too many penalties in the first half on offense. You can point to the players and the coaches for that one, too. And quarterback Evan Swoboda obviously had a terrible game. He was 6 of 15 for 42 yards. On the second play from scrimmage, he threw an interception on a screen pass that was returned for a touchdown. It was telegraphed the whole way. And that was the first of 2 picks thrown by Swoboda in that first half. And the second one was just airmail right into the arms of an ASU defender over the middle. So the Cowboy offense obviously would just bad. 118 yards total. Well, you just don't expect that. Albeit with 2 starters out of the lineup, running back Harrison Whaley and tight end John Michael Gillenborg. Gillenborg is expected to play this week against Idaho. Now, the Cowboy defense, between the size and the speed that Arizona put out on the field, they surrendered 499 yards of offense to the Sun Devils. And obviously it was really hot, but that's really not an excuse because Arizona looked great. The good news is the Wyoming Cowboys will play better this week against Idaho and Laramie because they cannot play any worse. Game time on Saturday in Laramie be 1:30 at the renovated War Memorial Stadium. High school football, the season began on Friday night. Those 4A schools were at it in their Week 0 games, what's counting the standings. The Trota held off Thunder Basin 17-7 in Casper. Cheyenne East zoomed by Laramie 37-6. Cheyenne Central on the road lost to Rock Springs 23-16. Kelly Walsh on the road lost to Campbell County 34-0. Defending 4A champion Sheridan won their 32nd consecutive game as they embarrassed Cheyenne South 79-0. South has now lost 39 straight games, which is a Wyoming record in that dubious category. High school volleyball, Cheyenne hosted a big 2-day tournament over the weekend. Defending 4A champion Laramie went 5-0, and they're going to be good. They have 2 Division I commits and Tessa Dodd from Oregon to Oregon, and Michonne Saylor is going to Fresno State. Casper Kelly Walsh with a good collection of big hitters on their team, and they finished the tournament 4-1. High school cross country, Cheyenne played host to the Big Wyoming Invitational at the Little America Golf Course on Friday. Maggie Matson of Cheyenne East, the sophomore, won the girls' race, and senior Trajan Swalstead of Worland was the boys' winner. The state cross-country meet will be held at Little America. That'll be coming up on October the 26th in Cheyenne. That's it in sports.
At the renovated War Memorial.
Well, yeah, they worked on some of the nice seats on one of the ends, You got, like regular almost, not bleachers, just nice seating.
Sure.
It's an arms race in stadiums and football facilities and athletic facilities. So they put some money into it. Good.
How about some heated seats? It's Wyoming.
Well, it comes in a little tiny bottle.
Oh,
that's
okay.
You stick, you stick somewhere.
You sneak in with that little bottle. That's another one of those myths about alcohol that I'll get to later.
Everyone knows that, and nobody cares.
Nobody cares. Good point. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some, he's right, nobody cares. Coming up on some local business you got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time. National local update on weather forecast. It's Wake Up Wyoming. 9:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Tuesday, not a Monday. Just to keep you on track there, because you did have that holiday weekend.
Today's show is sponsored by Sweet and Spicy Toilet Paper. Because life is, life needs...
No.
Okay, I don't know why you would need this.
But it makes a great gag gift.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave. Just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about. Or change the subject. Fine, I just kind of roll with the whole thing. All right, so thank you, DJ, up in Gillette, for sending me this. She likes some other people. She sends me a lot of stuff, hoping that one of these days she'll hit something that I didn't already read. And occasionally she does, because she sends me so much stuff. Most cases, I'm already ahead of her, but sometimes. California regulators propose government takeover of oil refineries to stave off energy crisis. Sounds like Venezuela to me, right? Let's go ahead and nationalize the energy industry. Sounds like. And you know how that turns out every time it's been tried. But all right, let's read on. As the Golden State continues to pursue its green agenda, CEO expects some of California's 9 oil refineries to be shuttered due to falling demand, as they call it. Well, it's not necessarily falling demand. That's not the only thing that's going on here. But let's move on. Which would give the remaining refineries increased pricing power and raise the possibility of surges in gas prices, the study concludes. To solve the problem, which, by the way, the government of California created, to solve the problem, the commission proposed a variety of government interventions. It included expanded regulation on private refineries and the establishment of state-owned refineries and increased imports. They created the problem. Prices are going up, not just with electricity, but with fuel of all sorts. They want to get rid of what they call fossil fuels. They see the problem. Therefore, they have to solve it by basically, well, they're not their own nation, but you would call it nationalizing it, socializing it, you know. And here's a quote. The deployment of ZEVs, zero-emission vehicles, which, by the way, pun intended, is a pipe dream, and a robust mass transit system are critical to achieving the state's climate goals, reducing local air pollution and eventually eliminating dependence on volatile global petroleum markets. As the demand for gasoline shrinks, refineries may close to convert to processing clean transportation fuels. There is no such thing. And this will lead to fewer gasoline refineries and increased market concentration associated with market problems. Okay. Now, AAA has reported the national average gas price for a gallon of gasoline has climbed to $3.92. That's the national average as of Monday. However, in California, it's close to $7 a gallon. Yeah. Regular, right now, this is average price. Regular in California, regular gasoline, $6.79. If you want the plus, it's $6.95. The Supreme is $7.09. So to address market concentration issues, they propose a variety of state interventions, including setting up state-owned refineries. I have a much better idea than this, but hold on, and I think you know what my idea is, but hang on, we'll get to it. The state of California would purchase and own refineries in a state-managed supply and price of gasoline, wrote a study author. However, this appeared to question whether creating a state-owned refinery to replace privately owned refineries pushes out of business by government energy policy is intuitive. As they say, as the demand for fossil fuel declines, it isn't going to. With the presence of state-owned refineries, well, could they operate at capacity, for one thing? So they suggest increasing oil imports. See, why? We have oil right here. Why increase imports? California may wish to consider developing a relationship with a supplier and refiner. And by the way, when they say, well, we might just want to bring in oil from other countries. Hey, California. Psst, hey, California. You have enough of your own oil. You have enough of your own. You have loads of it. Onshore and offshore. Use it. But no. All right. Story says California is set to ban the sale of purely gas-powered vehicles, and this would be the new ones, by 2035. However, even under the most aggressive scenario, zero-emission vehicles, millions of petroleum-fueled vehicles will remain on the highway for a very long time. Especially because what they're doing, the ban, of course, is still unconstitutional. But the ban on gas-powered vehicles and diesel-powered vehicles, it's just on the new ones so far, okay? They're still going to be able to sell the used ones for quite a while. Now, at some point, I expect them in California to ban those too. But again, they have this idea that, well, at some point, nobody in California is going to be driving these things, and we're all going to be driving electric vehicles. This is where I say there's a lot of ways to solve this. And I have the solutions to your problems, California, because I think I know how this is going to go down. But hold on. Now, I'm holding that off to after our little news and information break. This whole thing, I've solved it all, including my chain of retail stores.
Hey, friends, do you find yourself living in California and able to buy less and less of the basic fun and necessities of life? Well, now you can. Shop free at will because of a new chain of stores opening up on the California border. It's Banned in California. Yes, Banned in California provides all the products that you're no longer allowed to buy inside the California border. Guys, have you been wanting to buy that new fur coat for the little lady? What about that massive, energy-guzzling, big-screen TV? You'll find it on sale now at Banned in California. Serious lawnmowers that get the job done and big SUVs. And yes, to keep those little kitties happy, get them a Happy Meal with extra trans fat in the food court, of course. And feel free to walk around and smoke inside while the little lady goes to the tanning bed. Yes, Banned in California, now located at every state location along the California border. Open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Illegal immigrants on staff to show you how to speak back across the border with everything you've purchased.
Admit it, you were hoping somebody would say that. When you need to know quicker than the morning paper or the 5 o'clock news, you need Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Mornings on K2 Radio.
9:36 the time. Oh, there she is. Been a while since I've seen her. Before there were people like Ocasio-Cortez, there was Debbie Watcher gloriously expanding Big Butt Schultz. She's on television right now. There's some Democrat. I'm going to have to shut off. There's some Democrat meeting there with Kamala Harris, and there's a bunch of supporters standing there, And so they get, I guess it must be happening in Florida because there's Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And Debbie Pooh, for the longest time I called her Debbie Pooh. She's my gal. I picked on her before Ocasio-Cortez came around. And I figured there's nobody who could possibly be any worse than Debbie Pooh. And then comes Ocasio-Cortez. I'm afraid to say there's nobody worse than Ocasio-Cortez because God knows what we're going to get after that. Like a President Kamala Harris. I know I shouldn't have said that out loud. You're screaming now. I get it. I know. And the reason I call her Debbie Watcher gloriously expanding Big Butt Schultz is, you know how Pinocchio, when he would lie, his nose would get bigger. My theory with Debbie Pooh is that when she would lie, her butt would get bigger. Have you seen her? Okay, don't look. It's dragging behind her at this point. All right, so one more thing I wanted to say when we're talking about California wanting to continue to ban anything with coal, gas, and oil, and then eventually take over those industries as they go through the transition to try to keep the prices low, which is not going to work on any level. I get to say to the people of California, and I want the government of California to hear this, I live in a state where if I want to buy an electric car, I can. But if I want to buy an internal combustion engine, I can. Because we don't ban those things here. I live in a state where if I want to go ahead and buy a gas stove for my kitchen, I can do that. That's because that's what I want to do, so I'll go ahead and do that. And that commercial, that fake commercial I played, Banned in California, is my satirical way of saying to California, hey, you poor people living there, I don't know why you don't do anything about it. but they're taking away anything that you should be able to make a decision about. There's a certain kind of big screen TV that's banned. They want everybody to be using electric mowers and trimmers and things like that. What if you don't want one? A while back, I walked into a hardware store, and I was looking for something completely different. And I turned around and looked over where the mowers and edgers and trimmers were. And this particular hardware store had nothing but electric. And I thought, well, if I needed one, I would go somewhere else. And I know where to go. In Cheyenne, Wyoming. Cheyenne Frontier Outfitters is one of the places. Motors, excuse me. It's a shop that has all sorts of, what do you want, mowers, trimmers, edgers, for your home or industrial size. I mean, there's all sorts of places I can go where I can pick these things up if this is what I want to do. I live in the kind of state where I get to make my own decisions. However, people in California, and yes, Colorado, you're becoming like California. It's getting harder and harder for people to be able to make up their own minds about what they want to do. One of the reasons I like living in a state like Wyoming, or Florida is another good one. You know, glad we have Ron DeSantis in Florida. But states like that is it leaves up to the individual. People can make up their own minds about what they want to do. If you want to live, you think you're saving the planet by buying all electric everything, then you do that. If that's your decision, you have every right to live that way. If you want to eat nothing but organic foods and so on, you know. If that's how you want to live, then you live that way. Because it is absolutely your choice. And for those of us who choose to do something else, we live in states like Wyoming, and Florida's another one. States like that where, should we choose to live differently, we can go ahead and do that. And should we choose to disagree with each other about how to live, we can go ahead and do that. And that's okay. So, as California is one of those states that's just destroying itself, I've said this for decades now, sometimes you can convince people, you can talk to them, you can show them, you can convince them. Other times, the only thing you can do is just let them make their mistakes, and they're going to crash and burn in a major way. California literally is one of the largest economies in the world, mainly because of the size of the state. You know, land mass and population-wise, they're huge. One of the largest economies on the planet is California. Not for much longer. And as it falls apart, not just economically, but as people get up and leave, which is happening in California, those who put the state in this position are going to blame everybody but themselves. And I can say that with confidence because they already are. Let them go. Let them destroy themselves. Because at some point, it comes snapping back. And reason does take over. It will happen. I mean, not on my time schedule because it would have happened a long time ago already. But let's see how far close to rock bottom they need to get before they finally quit doing this.
You know how people are using pronouns these days like she, him, her, them, theirs? I want you to start using adjectives when you address me, like spectacular, outstanding, phenomenal, audacious.
Like a strong cup of coffee in the morning. Tasteless, but it'll get you through the day. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
Futures are nourished, and everyone deserves to live a full life. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow. feedingamerica.org/actnow. A public service announcement brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
.48's the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Frank Gambino. Frank, I don't know why it took me so long to figure it out, but from now on, whenever you're out there on the road, I'm going to play the intro to the song On the Road Again by Willie Nelson.
Oh, I like that.
On. Yeah, I just know why I never thought of that. Okay, a few more Mythbusters for you. Ready?
Okay.
Van Gogh cut off his own ear.
No, somebody else did.
Yeah, he cut off the top part of his earlobe.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. I was told this one. Your eyesight deteriorates if you read in the dark. No, you just get tired eyes faster. You're fine.
That makes sense. Totally, yes.
Okay. A stopped heart can be restarted with a defibrillator shock. No. Once it's stopped, it's done. So,
really?
in other words, there's still something going on in there, and they're just giving it a jump.
So once it stops, it's done.
You're done. According to this. Now, this one I think you do know. Napoleon was short. No. He was, he's about your height, Frank.
I thought he was 5'4" or something like that.
Something like that. He was not a short guy. Yeah, okay. We use only 10% of your brain. No,
yes, I heard that.
Yeah, most of the brain cortex works at full capacity even when you're asleep.
When you're, well,
with
course.
Some people.
Yeah, and some people are only using 5% of their brain at all times.
Yeah, okay. The Internet is connected by satellites. No, the Internet is connected by undersea cables.
Yes, and they're very heavy and they're very deep.
Yes. Okay, this one drives me nuts. Whenever I watch a movie and someone is either stuck in the neck by a dart or someone puts chloroform over their face and they immediately pass out. No, it takes up to 5 minutes for those things to take effect. Yeah. So if somebody gets hit by a dart in a movie and you see them pass out immediately, no, they're going to be walking around just fine for the first few minutes. Then by the last 2 minutes, they're going to start feeling drowsy.
Is that another Hollywood thing?
Yes, completely. Brain cells stop growing when you reach adulthood. No. Neurons flourish and change throughout your entire life. Unless, of course, you're a heavy drinker, and that's a whole other. Okay. Trees produce most of the oxygen on Earth. No.
They produce some.
The ocean.
Not all.
The ocean.
The ocean, yes.
Produces most of the oxygen on Earth.
All righty, in high school football, the season did begin on Friday night in Class 4A. Natrona held off Thunder Basin and Casper 17-7. Cheyenne East at home zoomed by Laramie 37-6. Cheyenne Central lost on the road to Rock Springs 23-16. Kelly Walsh, a loser to Campbell County Angel at 34-0. Defending 4A champions Shirley won their 32nd game in a row, and they just embarrassed Cheyenne South 79-0. South has now lost 39 straight games, which is a Wyoming record in that dubious category. In college football, a dubious performance from the Wyoming Cowboys on Saturday night as they were drilled by Arizona State and Tempe 48-7. Cowboys just did not look prepared at all, and their coaching staff can take the blame for that one. They had way too many penalties in the first half, way too many penalties on offense, so you can point to the players and the coaches for that one. And obviously everyone knows that quarterback Evan Swoboda really, really struggled. He was 6 of 15 for 42 yards. On the second play from scrimmage, he threw an interception on a screen pass that was returned for a touchdown, and that was telegraphed the whole way. You just cannot make throws like that and not look at the opposing defense and find out where these people are when they're only 5 yards away. That was the second pick. He actually threw two in the first half. The second one was just airmailed right into the arms of an ASU defender over the middle. So the Cowboy defense as a whole had a forgettable game with just 118 yards total, albeit with two starters out of the lineup. Running back Harrison Whaley and tight end Michael Gillenborg did not play. Cowboy defense was thoroughly outplayed and manhandled. They surrendered 499 yards of offense to the Sun Devils. The good news is that the Cowboys will play better this week against Idaho and Laramie because they cannot play any worse. Game time on Saturday in Laramie be 1:30. High school volleyball, Cheyenne hosted a big two-day tournament over the weekend. Defending champion Laramie went 5-0. They're very impressive. And they have two Division I commits in Tessa Dodd to Oregon and Mashawn Sailors to Fresno State. Casper Kelly Walsh with a good collection of big hitters, and they finished the tournament 4-1. High school cross country, Cheyenne played host to the Wyoming Invitational at the Little America Golf Course on Friday. Maggie Matson of Cheyenne East won the girls' race. The sophomore and senior Trajan Swalstaff from Moreland, the boys' winner. The state cross country meet will be held at Little America on October the 26th in Cheyenne, and that's it in sports for now.
Where are you going?
South Dakota, going to Spearfish, Deadwood, Keystone, Mount Rushmore. doing that. My brother is flying in from Florida with his family.
Oh,
so I don't see them very often. You know, so we're gonna do the Black Hills thing, and so he works for Allegiant Airlines and probably gets to fly for free.
Probably, yeah. Oh, that sounds like a great time.
Oh yeah, we'll so I'll speaking with you every day. You know, to report my progress or lack of it. You know,
right?
So
Yeah.
It'll be fine. Everything will be fine.
Everything will be just fine. They picked a perfect season to go do it, too. So, all right.
Yeah, right after Labor Day. Yeah, when everyone goes home.
Exactly. Yep. All right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. Wake Up Wyoming.